Okay, we're continuing with the meeting of the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners, Friday, June 22nd, 2012. We are on the regulation workshop informational items. Public comment will be allowed. So we'll go ahead and get going with item 11A, Commission General Regulation 406, trapping regulations for congested and residential areas, LCB file number R062-12, Chief Game Warden Rob Buonamici. Commission may adopt a regulation relating to trapping, prohibiting a person from trapping a fur-bearing mammal other than with a box or cage trap within a certain distance of a residence located within a congested area of certain counties, and providing other matters properly relating thereto. And so you give us maybe a little bit of background where we've been in the process and where we are now, I guess.
For the record, Chief Game Warden Rob Buonamici. As far as where we've been, as everybody knows, SB 226 required that the Commission adopt a regulation with regards to trapping as it pertains to proximity to residences. And there have been several meetings held regarding that via the Commission's Trapping Committee, and the meeting's been held in both Las Vegas and Reno. So it's been through a fairly well-vetted process. A lot of public input, a lot of controversy at times, and so forth. But I think what came out of it is a pretty good regulation overall that definitely meets the intent of SB 226 as it was laid out, and addresses basically everything we need to meet those criteria. So we can go back past the red face test for the legislature and said, yes, we did this. So with that, I'll go into the regulation itself. I'll go through it section by section. It's actually overall a fairly short regulation. We try to, whenever possible, keep our regulations as short, concise, and understandable as practical. Simplicity is the key, and it really helps with compliance if everybody can understand the regulation on both sides of the issue, whether in this case it's the trappers or it's non-trappers. The general public can understand it, and the trappers can understand it, and the game wardens can understand it, those of us that enforce it. So with that, section 1, except as otherwise provided in subsection 2, a person shall not trap a fur-bearing mammal other than with a box or cage trap within 1/2 mile of a residence, if the residence is located within a congested area of a county whose population is 100,000 or more. One of the criteria in SB 226 was for us to address counties with a population of 100,000 or more. That's what this does. The distance was reached upon, it ranged all over, and eventually we settled on 1/2 mile. That was something that everybody could relate to. Odometers are in 1/2 mile increment or 1/10 of a mile increment, so everybody, as opposed to feet or yards, so that just seemed to work better in this case. The one issue I need to point out in this section, it says shall not trap a fur-bearing mammal. With regards to that, we went through and looked at everything we submitted to LCB and went through the things that were submitted as a result of the trapping committee meeting. And there was never an intent to restrict it to fur-bearing mammals. So what we had originally submitted was shall not set a trap. And I believe what happened there was that LCB, when they looked at it, trapping is usually associated with fur-bearing mammals, and so they inserted those words. So I just wanted to point that out, that fur-bearing mammal was not in the original intent.
So the proposed change would be a person shall not
Set a trap other than.
a trap,
Right. And strike a fur-bearing mammal.
comma, other than a box or cage trap.
Right.
Comma, okay.
Okay. Section 2, the provisions of this section do not apply to an officer, employee, or agent of any state agency, the federal government, or local government acting in his or her official capacity for the purposes of animal control or control of depredating wildlife. And then B, a person acting under written authority from a state agency, federal government, or local government for the purposes of animal control or controlling depredating wildlife. That exempts all the pest control companies and all that have various permits from various agencies. This section also does not apply to a person trapping on private property or a person trapping in a waterway that is not within an incorporated city. And then section 3 is merely definitions. Box or cage trap means a device that is designed or maintained to confine a fur-bearing mammal within a box or cage. The term does not include any device that is designed, built, or made to close upon or hold fast any portion of a fur-bearing mammal. Again, we looked at what we submitted to LCB. Fur-bearing mammal was not in there. So that was inserted by LCB. The original language was means a device that is designed to contain or confine an animal within a box or cage. The term does not include any device that is designed, built, or made to close upon or hold fast any portion of an animal. And then congested area means there were issues over congested areas based on the various counties, in this case particularly Clark and Washoe County. They view congested areas a little different. So we felt it important to come up with a definition so everybody understands what we're talking about when we say congested area. So congested area means, one, an area of a county which the discharge of firearms is prohibited by county ordinance, or the area within the boundaries of an incorporated city in a county. So that's the definition of congested area for purposes of this regulation. And then residence means any house, room, apartment, tenement, or other building designed or intended for occupancy as a residence. We use the term residence as opposed to occupied dwelling, again, to specifically meet the intent and requirements of SB 226. SB 226 was specific to residence. And then waterway means any river, stream, canal, or channel that contains water, including without limitation the banks and bed of any such river, stream, canal, or channel. So that's the regulation in its entirety, and if there's any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
My comment is that we struggled at the last meeting with this congested area, and they really simplified it. I read that and I said, wow, that really, I think that works.
Yeah.
To that.
Commissioner Drew.
Thank you, Chairman. The only question I had in terms of the congested area, Rob, is those areas in rural Washoe County, 1,000-foot buffer. Is that an ordinance? Is that, how would that be viewed with the way this is written?
Okay, there's firearms congested area, firearm restriction areas. For example, Washoe County, they have a map that's published, says you cannot discharge a firearm within these boundaries.
Right.
Then there are county ordinances, most counties have them, that address the discharge of a firearm within a certain proximity of an occupied dwelling. That is different than the firearms congested area. That is just, you have a house, a cabin in the middle of nowhere in Washoe County, for example. You can't discharge a rifle within, I believe it's 5,000 feet of that residence, or a shotgun within 500 feet, I believe.
It's informational.
So would you be able to trap within a half mile of that cabin in the middle?
Of those, yes.
You would be able to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a little further clarification on that, Chairman Drew, is in section 1. It's specific to if the residence is located within a congested area of the county.
Thank you.
Rob, is LCB going to have any heartburn with this change from fur-bearing mammal to animal? With the explanation that that was really our intent to broaden it, to have it as broad as possible?
No, I don't believe so. I believe this was just their attempt to redo the regulation and them looking at our trapping regulations and seeing in many cases they're specific to fur bearers. And they inserted that, not realizing that it changed the intent.
Okay.
So I think we'll be fine.
Okay. Any other commissioners with a question with regard to the language of the regulation? Okay. Thanks, Rob.